Jeffrey.
Alex? No, you better start with Jeff. That'll kick us off better.
I was going to say, leave that in. It's great to have you here today. Let's call it the one of the Trek founding fathers, one of my favorite clients. We have a long relationship over the course of, I guess we could say pre-COVID and post-COVID.
Yeah, I wouldn't have done this for just anybody, Alex.
Hey, I'll take that. But, we're celebrating 30 years of a phenomenal program, one that you kicked off, the inaugural chair, talking to the 30th chair. Again, I still feel honored. But tell me this, over the course of 30 years, are you surprised that this program has had the kind of staying power, longevity that it's had?
Looking back, I really had no real clue on what it was going to do, even though it had been, I was just taking an idea that came up based on some other work I'll talk about while we're going through it. But it doesn't surprise me because for a couple of reasons. One, Trek has continued as it has, which I really felt would occur, and because it's like anything else, it fills a need. And when you fill a need, if you do a good job on that, then it typically it has a life. And if it doesn't have a life, it'll disappear, and something else very similar will come forth. And typically, that's usually none to economic issues that whether it's a company or organization like this. So it's been not surprising, but it's rewarding for all of us. And the front end of it, really fun.
It's interesting because I'll see you pop into spaces from time to time, and I'm always kind of curious what your perspective is. Kind of like, wow, I've been watching this kind of happening for such a long time. It's kind of like your vantage point on the industry is very unique. You're one of I'd say a relatively small collection considering how large the commercial real estate industry is here in Dallas and really North Texas and as a whole. How influential would you say the ALC program has been on the commercial real estate industry as a whole?
Well, you think about what it really consists of. It consists of an organization that's been successful in pulling people together and working on relationships. So that would be the first thing you think about. Second is that just a lot of people. 30 years and about 30 people each year. That's 900 people.
It adds up quick.
I mean, that's where else did that kind of thing happen? So yeah, it's been rewarding from the perspective of those of us. And I was not necessarily, I came up with the idea, but I wasn't the one selling it. In other words, internally, it was something that this makes sense. And the reason it makes sense, and I'll give you the reason that I was just taking off an idea that Leadership Dallas which was the Dallas Chamber of Commerce. And Dallas Chamber of Commerce just set it up. I was selected for it. And I was at Trammell Crow, and I was selected for it in 1980, I think, something like that. And there were 40 or 50 of us, can't remember the actual number, but the whole idea was to be selected in a selection process, which had some degree of competition. And you were selected for it to actually meet once a month and talk about the city of Dallas, how it worked, how a lot of the things we do in ALC. The big difference was that was a wide disparity of backgrounds and organizations. In other words, what I saw happen, or could happen, with ALC, was that it was all people in real estate or affected by real estate. And I just knew that was the bond that was not there for Leadership Dallas, in my opinion. Leadership Dallas is still continuing. It's on its, 45th, 48th year or something like that.
Yeah.
But the bond of everybody in the same industry certainly made a lot of sense, and so I thought it would work. But there were some individuals at that point at what we didn't call it Trek, but call it the REC was sort of the name back then. But back then there were some people that were really passionate about it. And Alice Murray, who was then our executive director, was passionate. And that was about the time that it wasn't just a bunch of males. There were women coming into the organization that also had that passion too, which was really cool.
See, that's interesting. You had mentioned effectively where else has it, and I remember that small little stint that I had where I went back to New York, and when I got there, that was one of the first things I was looking for. I was like, okay, where's the New York version of the real estate council? You got to have something. There's too many people out here. I couldn't really find one.
Well,
not one where people really thought about it. And I thought about it, but then I was like, oh gosh, this is even more daunting than I could even imagine it could be. So coming back to Dallas, it was like the first stop that I made was, coming back to the real estate council and asking about where I could get plugged in. And that was around the time that I got plugged right back into ALC. And it filled a gap for me, but it also makes me think about a couple other things in terms of, why is the program so important and for developing business leaders? Because I think about the rubbing and the people that you're talking to, but I couldn't quite put my finger on exactly why is it so influential.
Oh, I don't know, Alex. It's my own. Again, I use the word gut a lot because it's coming out a lot of the gut's a product of experiences. But my sense is that you leave college and you think you've got an education in college. What you really learn is now it's all of a sudden to get an education of what you're really going to focus on for the rest of your life. And my sense is that, again, that people will gravitate toward that. They want to learn, continue to learn, especially if they're in their 30s. They haven't just given up and say, okay, I'm going to push this wagon, for the next 20, 30 years doing this one thing. And it seems to me, especially in the real estate business, there's all sorts of places for advancement. And part of that advancement is being smarter and getting educated and learning. And so I think ALC was played into that with a lot of young people that said, I can learn a lot more about a lot that is impacting my business. It's impacting my home. It's impacting the relationship, my family, my kids, whatever. So I think it tapped all that.
It's like you mentioned, like the opportunity to learn,
right?
Opportunity to learn. It's I was actually having that same conversation that Leadership Day. We just had it about a week ago, and I mentioned to the class that when you're sitting there having the conversations with the people that's around, it's just as important to hear from the people that's coming in. Excuse me. It's just as important to learn the people that's in the class with you as it is to hear from the people who are actually speaking to you, because those are the folks that you get to very easily, if you don't understand something or you need kind of inside knowledge on something, you pick up the phone, you can call them, and it's somebody that you have a great relationship with that is an expert in their particular field. When you talk about the variety of people, you don't really get that anywhere, because it's wide enough to be varied, truly varied, multifaceted, but it's concentrated enough that it's multifaceted around the same object or the same goal
or same themes.
Exactly. So I think I love that.
Yeah, my sense is we made some good decisions. Keep it to a 30 max, 25 to 30. That was I think a very smart decision, and we've kept it there. And I think that leads to enough diversity in the discussions, but it still gets back to when you try to pull 50 together, it's hard. You get 10, everybody knows everybody by the second or third meeting, but you do it for 10, 12 meetings, and there's 30 of you. You get to know everybody fairly well, especially with a project that goes on.
I never thought about it that way.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm right.
I think after 30 years, we can say that was most certainly the way to go.
I know that's something I've, a little bit of input I still have in anything. That was something I felt was really important.
Okay, so take us back to the very beginning, right? Set the stage for us on how ALC came to be. Kind of, let's jump back in the Wayback Machine, 1995, and it's coming or kicking around as an idea.
I'm just laughing because it's just osmosis is the word I think you pick up on. And that there was about 4 or 5 of us that perceived there was an opportunity, and the opportunity came because there was a need to sort of pull this real estate industry back to some sort of semblance of an industry, because we had just been decimated. We were in the process of being decimated. It still wasn't over. We were all going to have to go through the 90, 91, 92, 93 repricing of projects and all of that, and new organizations being formed because many of the people, companies could not continue because the opportunities weren't there. We formed Champion in 91, and there was no no money, money for anybody, and so we had to go to New York, San Francisco, Boston, and places like that to get money to go do projects in Atlanta or Chicago or wherever. And so it was an interesting time, and it's so different than it is today. But nobody wanted, no big or even smaller lender, equity partner wanted to invest in Texas and specifically Dallas-Fort Worth. So we had to go hustle.
Okay. So you're talking about hustle, and there definitely seems like if there was a very specific goal in mind when crafting the ALC, the curriculum, what it looked like, who it was going to speak to. How did you guys set up on the age? What were you hoping to foster in that moment? Given there was such volatility in the market at the time.
Well, I think hope was one of the words that came out, and so there was some group or somebody in a group of people that had some hope this was going to end and we were going to come out of it. Gotcha. So I think hope was a big part of it, and that was true for Trek too at the time. So I think that was it. It was hope, but it was also it made sense. And then when we started take applications, we went, oh my gosh, yes. Because by then, by 94, 95, it had definitely turned the corner. And so the timing was perfect. And as people were in, and we had a real issue, I'm not sure exactly the time frame, but call it 98 to, 2005 or so, where we finally had to say, if you're a company, you got to take control of it. And you have one person. Because we were getting, as I recall, and I'm sure some of the people who listen to this podcast will say, "Oh, Swope, you don't know what you're talking about." There were an X number, but it was a lot of people, and we were conflicting. Whether it was architecture firms, general contractors, brokers, developer types, everybody wanted to be part of it. And so I say everybody could. So we had 60, 70, 80, 100 applications. Wow. And so we were trying to tell people, okay, can't make it this year. We still got classes coming ahead. Yes, we hope this continues. And I think that helped eliminate a little bit of pressure. But we had, because I was so involved in the front end of it. I mean, all these people, will you write me a letter? Will you back me? Will you, that sort of stuff. And believe me, I wasn't the only one getting those requests. And so we realized something had hit, and again, the market had turned. We were starting to do things here. And that was 94, 95, 96, 97. By that time, this thing just had legs of its own.
Okay, so how long were you actually working to pull it together? Because everybody thinks like these programs, okay, a couple months you pull it together. Yeah. That's not what it sounds like I'm hearing you say. Like you guys were talking about it 90, 91, 92, and it wasn't actually up and running until 94, 95.
Well, it needed a champion. It needed somebody that, amongst our group of, it was an increasing group that started Trek. There were 4 or 5 of us, and then it became 10, and then you needed somebody that would say, okay, I'm willing to take charge of this because we got this deal of sort of 1-year terms and just find leaders and continue to turn them over. And because I'd had that experience at Leadership Dallas, I think people would say, well, here he is again. He's seen a little bit of this movie, and I had a definite perspective that what we needed to do, and didn't mean it. The execution strategy was up to everybody else. I just could see there was a need. Yeah. And I don't know. I've just always responded to seeing a need, and then just really playing out in my mind of where that can go. And there was a need for it.
Kind of pulling the thread all the way to the end.
Yeah.
Right.
Then you get involved, and pretty quickly they don't need you to do anything. So you get out of the way.
Get out of the way.
Go work on something else. So.
It's like come up with a new idea.
Yeah.
We'll continue from here. We got it from here. Yeah. Now it's funny that you're mentioning that you went in this direction. Kind of leads us right into my next question, and it's really kind of comes down to the tenets, like the pillars of the organization for Trek. ALC kind of perfectly mirrors it, right? So you have the components of building relationships, leadership training, advocacy, and priorities, our responsibility to the communities that we serve, which is incredibly important today. Which part of the program was there from the very beginning, and like what area in particular was so important to kind of foster or develop inside of the actual program itself?
Well, you're right. It did follow the Trek model, and honestly, at least from my perspective, the real objective, as much as anything, was getting 40, 30, excuse me, 30 people together that had common interests, common ages, and have them get excited about it and see. And I think from there were so many people with input. We knew we needed to know more about the police and safety. We knew we needed to learn that, include, of course, fire. We needed to understand better just how the city of Dallas operated, and the city manager system, I think, was still in existence then. And just how was the budgeting done? There was just all of this unknown that wasn't really known. And in fact, I didn't see it evolve into Leadership Dallas. And so I said, there's more depth that can get here, and we can learn more. Because really, I'll speak for it. I think Neil Sleeper and some others felt the same way that were involved in it, is that you're trying to inspire people to get involved. And really, that's true Trek, that's true in Trek, ALC, government affairs. Just get involved. Find a passion. Find something you believe you can have an impact on and have a positive impact on. Come at it with real estate's. It's putting bread on the table.
Yes, okay? It is. Yes, it is.
But get a passion for some piece of our industry, and then try to make it better. Get involved in it. It was pretty obvious there were going to be a lot of new Treks formed, and there weren't going to be a lot of new ALCs formed. But there were going to be a lot of things that people could do if they learned enough about it and developed a passion. And that's, in fact, what's happened. The nonprofit sectors, this whole community, Dallas-Fort Worth, has just, it's just like this with regard to all the many nonprofits that have been set up, both Christian base and other religious base, as well as just other things, park boards, whatever. And the participation's been incredible, and a lot of that's in the industry has been germinated by that. I said often, I get up front of that group, a couple of groups, and said, you think right now your job description, your identity, if you want to call it, and people hate to use that word too often. What do you mean my identity? Your identity when you walk in the door, how does somebody perceive who you are and what you do? I mean, that's life. Okay?
Yeah.
And the point was that there were people that didn't really understand that, and that they could do more, and they could have could have a place, and could have input into things. And so that was good. The failure, if we've had any, you haven't asked, but I'll go ahead and jump on it, is that we didn't inspire people to do as much within the city of Dallas, on boards, on running for city council, whatever. Now, we all know the dysfunction, let's call it that, the dysfunction we've had downtown for a number of years. But unfortunately, it's because a lot of it, there haven't been real estate people involved.
Yeah.
The doers, it's the cantors in many cases that has stopped things from happening, or kept it, or whatever. The more of an institutional mindset versus an entrepreneurial mindset. And the beauty of the real estate business, it definitely brings more of an entrepreneurial mindset.
So that makes me think of why there's such a significant difference between each of the actual program days and what you're focused on. And I felt it being my charge. I think I might have mentioned it, when we were talking earlier this year or end of last year about this program. I felt like it was my responsibility in terms of what I wanted to leave was have 30 people who knew where they wanted to get engaged. Yeah. Wonderful if it's Trek, and maybe it's not. Maybe it ends up being with somebody who you heard speak that day that kind of did something for you that made you say, hey, I want to be a leader in this way. I want to step out in this way. Or, hey, they could use my help and I could take that group to a different place or be more productive. And it's really talking about local leaders. What are you going to do to make sure the community is actually what we want it to be, and not be something that where we look for somebody else to solve our own problems. That's never going to happen.
I think it's all great. Those are all good comments, and I make it off the reservation at times. But so much of life to me is trying to alleviate your fears or eliminate your fears. And Lord knows we all got them. Okay, and unfortunately, what's happened is I think we've become much more of a fearful people. Unfortunately, I think we're more fearful of failure. We're more fearful of a lot of things, and you can blame it on 37 items easily. That's what's brought that about. But Trek, I think, has at least expanded the perspective that you can have an impact on this. You can have it and make a difference. It's hard. It's real hard, and it's something that it's more difficult to do in the city of Dallas than it is in the city of Fort Worth. It's more difficult in the city of Fort Worth than it is in, it's like Richardson. Okay, it's just you got to pick where you want to commit, and we I think created that to some degree, but it is difficult, and it can also lead to some fear.
Okay, so that kind of takes us takes in a slightly different direction, but I'd like to ask you something. What are your observations of the program, or excuse me, of how the program has evolved since that early kind of inaugural class to where it is right now? 30 years is a long time, and the city's needs have changed, and our personality has changed.
Yeah, I think that's a great observation. I don't know that I have an answer for it or any great thought process, but there's just all sorts of opportunities in this industry to go to the next level, whether it's what you're doing, working on within your company, whether or not you want to switch what you're doing within the company, whether or not you want to move from being in architecture, as an example, to construction. There's just so many opportunities, and I think that certainly holds true with regard to civic involvement. But if I have anything that I personally have failed at, okay, and I don't feel like I've succeeded, is convincing others to get involved. And I've had such difficulty at times, and let's call it the civic arena, with getting plans, permits done, getting in a timely manner, that you come away at some with how dysfunctional you may be, but you really feel those guys are. And so you want to have impact when you think you can be successful. And it's been that we've been successful with ALC. I think we all, and Alex, I'm sure you would agree, I think we all could have felt like we could be more successful with regard to the ALC and TR Trek to actually be more civically involved.
Absolutely, because it's very easy to at the end of the program, you've learned so much that you're like, okay, where do I jump in? Yeah. Then it's almost, paralysis by analysis. You spend so much time, kind of thinking about, all these different things that you heard, and you're inspired by so many different places, but then you're like, but I don't know where to jump in. Yeah. And then just the lack of knowing or just committing to one, nobody's saying you can't change your mind, but the lack of committing to one, you find that you lose 2, 3, 4 years sometimes. And those are critical years, years where you're engaged, your energy and time waits for no one, so.
Energy and passion and having success, that success breeds success. And this is more of a comment for our own world and our own opportunities that we may see. But having one of the things that I think we do okay at Trek and at ALC is I'm not sure we are as what's the words I'd use, as rewarding an experience as we could be. Example, I just think doing more to celebrate what we've accomplished, do more to celebrate because it's a tough world out there, and it's not getting any easier.
That's true.
And so celebrating the success, whatever it may be, how small it may be. And I don't care, that's true in our families. That's true in the schools our kids go to. That's true in almost every endeavor. Celebrate even the small little things. And I think one of the things that we've gotten so bogged down on, we read the media too much. I mean, I think we all, Dallas Morning News is its own worst enemy at times, and that we're not celebrating what's really good and so often. And there's a lot of good things, but it just doesn't get written up. It just doesn't get focused on. I think and never. I think the news has done a much better job of that the last couple of years. But there was a period of time there where it was just, why did you even pick up and read it?
Yeah,
if
if
you're a positive person, you're going to have a hard time believing that this was something that you should be reading.
Mm-hmm. And now that's a perspective that I think is born over time, and something that's learned just through observation and experience.
Yes.
And letting that really change change who you are and change how you think. Thinking back to, let's say I don't want to say it that way. Knowing the leader that you are today. Think about
that may be past tense.
Think about the leader that you were when you started the program, because you didn't have that, you didn't have what I have, right? The benefit of seeing so many people run the program. Like my chair was Nathan Golick and then Jeff Montgomery, awesome folks. The years that I jumped in, it was Sarah Kensington, it was Kate Kavanaugh.
Sure.
I mean, just awesome folks. Jeff, then Evan did it, so I had the benefit of seeing so many folks do it. I saw Cullen do it, so really just kind of being ingrained in it. You didn't have that, so talk about the leader you were and then how the program might have even tweaked throughout the year, as you're living it.
Who knows? I'm a weird dude, and as I say, I'm so broken. I'm not sure I know what I am, but I it's back to that success breeds success. I mean, I've been very blessed to be thrown into leadership roles, and I've relished those all the way back to take a paper route. I was 11 years old. He's supposed to be 12, and I told the route manager very confidently after my first week, I'm going to be the best route guy you got. And it was just one of those, it sounded cocky, and it probably was coming out of an 11-year-old kid, but just that brings back leadership. And so I've just always felt like that if I could commit to something, really get behind it, whether it's a job, whether it's some nonprofit, or whether it's the real estate business itself, just you're doing it. Why do it half-ass? Now, people may perceive that you're doing it half-ass, but in your mind, you're doing everything you can to make it successful. Gotcha. And success isn't just making money. Success is bringing about good change. Success is helping other people do that. And I was noticed last night Michelle Wheeler was honored at the NetCar Hall of Fame last night, and what a true both challenge and a blessing it was to be her boss way back years ago. And she was just. It was just amazing. I mean, to see her grow, to see her learn, and to see the route that she was going to be on, it appeared, and sure enough, she did. And so it's all those things that leadership comes about. And you're not anointed, okay? And you've got people typically that are leaders that are helping you. And I had some of the most incredible leaders taking me down the path, and in both what I call more civic endeavors, as well as in the real estate business. I mean, when Trammell Crow is the guy who hired you, and he's your mentor. Yeah. Most people don't get that opportunity.
So just being aware.
Yeah.
That you have that kind of talent around you that,
You're awful kind.
It's just saying.
It's just you just commit, and you realize that other things may fall by the wayside a little bit, and you just try to do the best job you can. When we got Trek going in ALC, that 5 or 6 year period there, we were flying all over the country trying to get Champion going. We're doing deals. We weren't building anything here. We're getting on a plane and flying somewhere to try to get a project going. So it was a great time building a company, but trying to keep Trek going too at the same time. I mean, I've told many people I don't think I slept for about 5 or 6 years in there. Between the downturn and the start of Champion, the start of the Real Estate Council and all that, it was there wasn't much time to do. And I had 4 kids at home looking up at me, Dad. So I'm not complaining at all. Yeah. I chose that route, but I wasn't as effective as I could have been.
Well, having those 4 baby birds at home, looking for, Papa to drop a little food in the gullet. That'll give you plenty of motivation.
Fortunately, they were becoming teenagers, and it's a little bit different, but it's the same thing.
Would you tell yourself anything different, if kind of looking back?
What
would you tell yourself?
I say often now, and any issue comes up, whether it's family or business or company or whatever, church, you name it, is just love on them. Just love on them. Because it is amazing. Just get yourself out of the way and just love them.
Give them grace even when they're messing up.
Yeah, we all need grace. And yours truly needs about as much as everything we do. Thank you, Jesus.
And so, what leadership qualities do you think have stood the test of time for you? I mean, you spoke about commitment.
Yeah,
but are there a couple others that kind of,
Well, I think if you can help set the agenda. I'm not it's hard being a follower if you've been a leader and if you've had to make difficult decisions. It's hard to be a follower. You can do it, but you find yourself not expending much energy for it. And so I think, and you've learned that whether they like it or not, people will follow you if you've got a good vision in front of them, and if they believe it's for a good cause, they'll follow. And that's been grace in many cases for me.
That's wonderful. Okay. There's a couple other things I could ask you, but there's really one kind of final question that I'd like you to expound upon.
Okay.
Have you
prepped me for it, or
No. A little bit of prep. You had some time for this one. Just kind of thinking about 60 years from now. All those future classes that's going to come after this one. I can't lie and say that it's not something that I think about, a fair amount. Lonely Tear is going to drop, that on the graduation day, and I'm going to be like, wow, my ALC time is complete, But what do you hope for the future generations of ALC participants to take away from the program?
Wow. I'm not a good person really looking back because I think if you're not careful, how you look back will determine how you go forward.
Yeah,
so
trip on yourself.
I've learned that a lot. And but when you start thinking about where we'll be in eternity. And whether or not we'll be able to look down and watch what's going on or not, it's another story. another thing we'll have to figure. Somebody's going to figure it out long before we get there. But you hope that it's had a positive impact on the community around you, and you hope that it's a better place. You've helped. In my little world, I'd hope that when I'm pushing daisies somewhere, whenever that may be, I hope that you're viewed as somebody who had a lot of positive things to do and accomplish, and you can't do that alone. You can do that only with a great group of people in this real estate industry. Oh my gosh, what a blessing! That in my case, I ended up picking real estate to go into, and out of school, I went back, got my MBA, just to focus on what the heck I was going to do, because I was a weird bird. I didn't want to go to work for a big company, and so it was difficult, because that's when you got your bachelor's in business. You went to work in the business world, in a big company. That's all the job offers were that. And that wasn't me. I learned it, unfortunately, as I was, getting ready to graduate. And so, fortunately, I had some really wonderful mentors that were some professors, and they convinced me to stay and get my MBA with the whole intent of, what in the world is this guy going to do? And because I mean, both those guys in particular became wonderful friends and still are. And I just think it goes back to, did you, okay, did Bill, did Trek, and you make it even larger with Trek, did we possibly impact this community with what we did and who we were? We were so fortunate to have an incredible real estate community to do that in, because we're obviously proactive type people in order to make this thing work, because we're always having to look out. You can't look back as much. There's three types of people: those that can look back, those that are really good at this moment, which I'm not, are those that look ahead. So you got to sort of pick the one you go. And the real estate community is just full of people in their personal life and in their work life and family life, or however you want to define it, look ahead. Maybe almost too much sometimes, because you end up not doing a lot if you're not careful. But I do hope that we all enjoy the belief system and the good feelings that come from, hey, we made a positive impact, and I think that's valid for everybody. Did I have a positive impact on my family? Did I have a positive impact on my neighborhood? Did I? That's a high bar.
That's
a very high bar, and I think, and even further answer to your question, I'm not sure people think about that much. I've reflected. I mean, I'm 75 now. I'm over the hill, but I've reflected on that a lot. Okay, is there really a focus on that? And I think sometimes you see it more in a let's call it a spiritual way than you do in applying it to business, but maybe even ahead of business would be your family and others that you've had a relationship with. But oh my gosh, Alex, how wonderful has it been to be in this industry, in this town, at this time. We're going to go to, within 25 years, there are going to be 12 and a half, 13 million people here. I mean, when I started at from UT, there were 2.2 million. And we're going to be, and I've said so often, it's almost a broken record, if we all couldn't figure out a way to make a living and enjoy making that living and enjoying this community, when a market not just tripled, not just quadrupled, not just quintupled. What's the next word? 6, 7, whatever 6, 7 is. If you couldn't do that, I mean, where could you have been in the world
and seeing that
to see that happen, to be a part of that? Oh my gosh, this is it, y'all. This is it. And I've conveyed that message more and more now because I want people to understand that and maybe take a different risk, take a different opportunity, get something burning inside. Take that opportunity. And if you need more feedback on it, myself and a number of others be happy to be an encourager for it. So that's the way I would conclude the thought.
I love that. And first off, I want to say personally thank you for your passion, for your commitment. It's those kinds of things that I've seen from the moment I met you, walking into your office, having never really didn't really know who I was walking into. That has proved to be a meaningful lesson for me that I learn each time that I'm with you. And I very, very much appreciate you. I know you as a businessman. I know you as a mentor. I know you as a philanthropist. I'd like to take my moment to say thank you, because I don't think that any of us would have the opportunities we have right now or the vigor to actually make some of these things happen and find our own moments in our own place that we want to be impactful in this city. So thank you. I appreciate it. Hopefully we have a lot more time.
I'm embarrassed by that. I would say to you, let's just get fear out of the equation. No fear.
Fear.
I got them, but I try real hard to just take a risk. Have a belief in yourself. Have a belief in others that'll help you accomplish what you want to.
I'm going to make sure that I tell the class that this year.
Good.
That might be part of the next session. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Love that. Thank
love
you
being
so
with
much.
You, Alex. Thank you.
Likewise, my friend. God bless.
You bet.